Welcome to the first episode of a series that's going to break down Volume 5 of Amazing Spider-Man. Let's dive into the first arc, Back to Basics. Peter and Randy Robertson, son of longtime Daily Bugle editor Robbie Robertson, are roommates once again and on the hunt for an apartment. As Peter contemplates moving back to Queens, his spider sense warns him of incoming danger. A group of villains, Rhino, Electro, and Big Wheel, led by Boomerang, are fleeing the cops after robbing the Museum of Natural History. Pete tells Randy he's got to snap some pics for the Bugle. Randy's going to continue their apartment hunting, but he's going to call dibs on the good bedroom. Meanwhile, Electro is giving Boomerang flack for how the heist went, and he insists she just needs to trust him. Spider-Man arrives and advises against that. Boomerang's track record for being a team player isn't exactly stellar. Boomerang, Electro, and Big Wheel go on the attack, with Rhino entering the fray soon after. Spidey avoids the Mad Beast, resulting in Rhino getting his head stuck in a car. Spider-Man goads Rhino into charging at him again, causing him to nail Boomerang. Electro misses a shot and short-circuits Big Wheel's systems. Big Wheel's brakes aren't working and he's headed straight for a restaurant. Spider-Man frantically starts firing webs to stop the runaway Wheel, which he does just in time. While he's still holding Big Wheel in place, the other villains move in for the kill, when Spidey gets a surprise assist from Kingpin, current mayor of New York. He orders his men to unhand the web slinger and praises Spidey as a hero. Kingpin then approaches Boomerang and grabs what he stole from the museum. Whatever is in there, Fisk is excited to have it. Just like Spidey warned, Boomerang double-crosses his squad and takes off. Spider-Man leaves the others to Fisk and his men because Randy texts saying he found an apartment. Pete can't believe how great this place is. He's excited about the skylight, but this is Randy's room. The reason they got such a great apartment is because they're subletting it to Fred Myers, aka Boomerang. Spider-Man responds to a bank robbery he heard via a police dispatch, but it's not what it seems. As part of a plan to alienate Spider-Man from the other heroes of New York, the Kingpin arranges a surprise ceremony to give Spidey the key to the city. Spider-Man is tempted for a second, but then remembers who Fisk really is and rejects the gift. Peter is having a dream where he and Mary Jane are back together, sharing a moment atop the Empire State Building, but he's woken up by the sound of Fred playing video games at 5 in the morning. He's about to give Fred a piece of his mind when Randy steps in to stick up for Myers. Randy uses the glass half full principle by reminding Peter that he needed to be up early anyway for a press conference. The press conference is for an anti-plagiarism technology called Watcher being launched at Empire State University. A former classmate of Peter's, Cindy Lawton, is giving the presentation and calls him to the stage for a demonstration of the technology. Much to everyone's shock and dismay, it's found that Peter's graduate paper was plagiarized from Otto Octavius's work, which isn't untrue as Peter got his graduate degree while Otto was in possession of his body. Obviously, Peter can't explain this, which causes him to lose the respect of his peers and his job. His boss, Robbie Robertson, knows there's probably a good explanation for it as he's known Peter a long time, but right now he has to let Pete go, which means no more sexy massage chair. Mary Jane finds the whole thing hilarious because of how ridiculous Peter's life can be. He puts his foot in his mouth when he shows how much letting Robbie down has affected him, forgetting that MJ knows better than anyone else how much the ridiculousness of his life can hurt others. Peter's life as Spider-Man has probably caused MJ more hurt than anyone else. She asks Pete how he explained it to Aunt May. Peter heads to May's apartment to break the news to her. He turns off her TV and hides her newspaper in the hopes of keeping it from her. But earlier, May received a news alert on her phone with Peter's name. She set them up so every time he published an article, she'd see it. May can accept that Peter made a mistake, even a terrible one, but not that he won't take responsibility for it. Everyone from the Avengers to the X-Men are defending New York from an alien invasion. When Spider-Man arrives, he's greeted with a frosty reception. Kingpin's plan worked, and the only hero who talks to Spidey is the Human Torch, just before one of the aliens latches onto him. The aliens overwhelm the heroes, with Spider-Man seemingly their last hope. While reflecting on the past few weeks of his life, in particular Otto's paper, determining patterns in the random, chaos theory, and probability distribution, Spidey notices there's a pattern to the aliens' portals. He launches himself towards them, telling himself if this is how it ends, he's good with it, and then smacks into something. It turns out Mysterio is behind this alien invasion. Spider-Man takes old Fishbowl down with a few punches. While webbing Mysterio up, Beck says something that gets Spidey thinking. He wanted to make one big gesture to turn his lousy life around. Inspired by Mysterio's words, Peter asks Mary Jane if they can give things another shot, to which she agrees. Mysterio is defending himself in court. Despite the court's advice, he seeks other counsel. As he's about to enter his plea, his lawyer, Janice Lincoln, daughter of Tombstone and current Beetle, pleads not guilty by reason of insanity. As the two bicker, Janice starts coughing before vomiting insects. The judge tries to restore order, but rats burst forth from his neck. The courtroom then begins to crumble, and Mysterio starts panicking. He crawls across the room through a floor of insects and rats, and scratches at the door to get out. Suddenly, the room goes dark, and Kindred appears. We don't learn his name until way later in the run, so it's easier just to use his name now. Kindred brought Mysterio back to life after he committed suicide, so he could wear Spider-Man down. He's the one who paid Janice to be his lawyer. But Mysterio has failed one time too many, and Kindred is ready to bring him back to hell. Mysterio desperately pleads for one more chance, which he is granted. It turns out all of that took place in Beck's head, and his reaction really helped his insanity plea. Mysterio's not sure if it actually happened, but a centipede on the judge's bench proves Kindred is watching. Peter gets a call from Cindy Lawton asking him to meet her at ESU. The board had decided to fully revoke Peter's academic credentials, but the impassioned defense of Parker by an esteemed faculty member made them reconsider. Peter is given textbooks, a syllabus, and brought to the professor's class, the class of Professor Kurt Connors, aka the Lizard. Pete freaks out and tells everyone to leave the classroom, but he's confused when no one budges. The Lizard apologizes to his class for Peter's outburst, and Cindy assures him that Professor Connors is no longer a threat to anyone. Lizard transforms into Kurt and shows Peter a surgically embedded adamantium-encased inhibitor chip that prevents him from harming any human being. Kurt wants Peter to join his class. Pete is hesitant, but Connors tells him this class is for the pure joy of discovery, and then tries to convince him by showing him the isotope genome accelerator. Peter mentioned it in his first editorial at the Bugle, his big keynote at Parker Industries, and said it changed his life forever. But Kurt doesn't know this machine turned Peter into Spider-Man. Kurt hopes they can use this machine to separate him from the Lizard. Suddenly, Taskmaster and Black Ant burst into the classroom. Lizard tries to protect his students, but the inhibitor chip paralyzes him. Pete can't change into Spider-Man, but has another idea. He gets Taskmaster's attention by asking him if that's his real face or a mask. Taskmaster grabs Peter, causing him to hit the switch on the IGA. Unbeknownst to Pete, he's hit with a beam from the machine. Taskmaster throws him over a desk, where Peter mixes some chemicals to create some cover and allows Spider-Man to make an appearance. Taskmaster and Black Ant feel like this is the reason their employer paid them so well for this job. Spidey hits Taskmaster with a kick to the face while hitting Black Ant with a web line. Black Ant uses his size-changing powers to get out of the webs, then fires some stingers at Spider-Man, but hits his partner instead. Spider-Man knocks the villains out, then explains to the Lizard that he used his spider teleporting powers to get there, and then helps Peter Parker to his feet? Spider-Man and Peter head somewhere away from prying eyes to figure out what happened. After some very thorough tests and questioning, Peter and Spider-Man agree that they are one and the same. Peter can now have a life without Spider-Man getting in the way. Pete isn't taking the split as well as Spider-Man, who says he's super happy he gets to be Spider-Man. Pete is hesitant about the whole thing and suggests getting some testing done, but Spidey swings off, leaving Peter stranded on the rooftop. Now that he doesn't have the proportionate strength and speed of a spider, Peter has to get used to just being a regular dude. But seeing Spidey in action makes him realize this opens up a world of possibilities for him. He now has time to have an actual normal relationship with Mary Jane. Meanwhile, Spider-Man's villains are even noticing a change in the web-slinger. Taking full advantage of their newfound freedom, Mary Jane and Peter arrange a double date. Albeit, the second couple is not an actual couple, but two exes, Randy Robertson and Nora Winters. Nora checks out a news alert on her phone. The Tri-Sentinel is attacking New York. MJ asks Pete if this is something he needs to take care of, but he knows Spider-Man will handle it. After hitting a spectacular gutter ball, Peter gets a text from Doc Connors asking him to come see him. Kurt shows Pete Horatio, a mouse he split into two using the isotope genome accelerator. As Spider-Man battles the Tri-Sentinel, Kurt explains that Horatio's skills have been split between the two mice. This puts a hold on human testing, because what if more than aptitudes get transferred? What if emotional states or moral beliefs move as well? That's when Pete realizes that Spider-Man has great power, but may not have any sense of responsibility. The owner of the Tri-Sentinel is not happy about losing control of his weapon to Spider-Man. Mendel Strom, aka the Robot Master, aka Gaunt, aka former partner of Norman Osborn and man who created the Goblin Serum, tries to figure out a way to override what Spidey has done, but isn't successful. Strom tries creating a drone that will retrieve his Sentinel, but fails. Mendel then spirals into an episode of self-pity when he hears a mysterious voice offering him gifts that will help him attain his heart's desire, the death of Norman Osborn. He also tells him not to be sad about his Tri-Sentinel, because there's more where that came from. Spider-Man and his new Spider-Bot are stopping crime all across the city, with zero regard for public safety. While he may be taking down supervillains, Spidey is also destroying the city. He's embracing his celebrity status and signing sponsorship deals, all while Peter is dealing with an overwhelming sense of responsibility, even more so than before. He's helping people across streets, changing people's tires, and even refilling their parking meters, which turns out is a crime. May and Peter have patched things up, and after May tells Peter he spent his whole life putting everyone else before him, it's time he looked out for himself. He uses another of Spider-Man's new ventures, Superhero, to force a conversation between them. Spidey has no interest in talking to Peter and leaves, but Pete can still use a web shooter and hitches a ride. Spider-Man relents and lands on a rooftop. The two argue about what it means to be a responsible hero. Peter asks what happens if Spider-Man has to suffer something bad to do the right thing, and when Spidey says, "Not my problem," he mentions Uncle Ben and the night he died, but Spider-Man has no idea who Peter's talking about. He webs Peter to the wall and leaves. After the webbing is dissolved, Peter heads to ESU to find Horatio 1 and 2 have died. Connor tells Peter the longer the doppelgangers were separated, the more severe their symptoms became. What started as loss of skills turned to behavioral issues, then to memory loss, and then death. Peter is discussing the whole situation with MJ, and she tells him as much as his life as Spider-Man scares, frustrates, and endangers her, that's who Peter is, and she loves him for it. Now Pete has to figure out how to merge himself and Spider-Man back together. He knows the isotope genome accelerator is the key, but he has no way of getting to it, not without his powers. He considers calling the Black Cat for help, but feels that could get too complicated. Instead, he tricks his new roommate, Boomerang, into stealing it, by very loudly explaining to Randy how much the machine would fetch on the black market and how lacking ESU security is. Once Boomerang has the goods, Pete then steals his van and tracks down Spidey. Peter is taken aback by how nonchalant Spidey is about his arrival, but he's just distracted by the swarm of Tri-Sentinels over the city. Mendel Stromm is watching from his lair and is ecstatic that he's about to do what Norman Osborn couldn't. His mysterious benefactor asks if it was worth it. Mendel replies it was, before he's torn apart by massive centipedes at Kindred's command. Peter and Spider-Man are on the run from the Tri-Sentinel horde. Pete pushes Spidey out of harm's way and takes the brunt of the blast. He doesn't understand why Spidey's spider sense didn't warn of the danger. It turns out Spidey turned it off because it was annoying him. Not a big deal other than the occasional blinding pain in his brain. Even after witnessing Peter's selfless act of heroism, Spider-Man still doesn't understand the concept of with great power, there must also come great responsibility. Peter uses a web line to pull the IGA to the ground, causing it to explode and generate a huge blast of energy. As they're enveloped in the ball of energy, Spidey tells Pete to be a little more like him sometimes. He doesn't have to be so grim about the burden of responsibility he bears. He can still enjoy himself once in a while. Back to his old self, Spider-Man tries to figure out how to stop the Tri-Sentinels. He calls on his Spider-Bot and enters its head. If the other Tri-Sentinels are on the same network as Spider-Bot, Spidey will be able to hack them too. While Spider-Bot throws down against the overwhelming odds, Spider-Man puts his plan into action and takes over the swarm. And looking like Bastion on the back of Falcor, Spidey has them return to their point of origin. After crashing through a window, Spider-Man finds Stromm's mutilated remains and tells him to hold on, but Mendel just mutters, "Guess my name." The Tri-Sentinels reach their stronghold and begin repeating Mendel's words before self-destructing. Spider-Man sits atop the wreckage of the Master Mold, trying to understand what just happened. Taskmaster and Black Ant are being interrogated by Garrett Stone of the Department of Homeland Security Metahuman and Advanced Technology Division, or DHISMET, since S.H.I.E.L.D. is no longer in operation. They refuse to give up their employer and make their escape. As they make their way toward their ship, Taskmaster gives Stone a tip. Never interrogate a supervillain in a room with exterior walls. And it wasn't the genome accelerator they were hired to steal. Their employer plays a different kind of game. Taskmaster and Black Ant were hired by Kraven the Hunter. Following a 10-year run in a comic book is no easy feat, but I feel like Spencer did really well here. He honored what came before, but didn't make it overwhelming for new readers. Kindred seems like a big deal right out of the gate, and is a focal point of Spencer's entire run. My only real nitpick is the heroes buying that Kingpin and Spidey are buddies. They know Spider-Man better than that. Back to Basics is told across the free Comic Book Day Amazing Spider-Man 2018 issue and issues 1 to 5 of this volume, making it 102 to 806 in legacy numbering. Well, make sure to come back next Wednesday to check out issues 6 and 7, A Trivial Pursuit.